Hakuna kopi basi sayo manino. Ako kujua basi sayo manino. Omeni no. Where you at, nigga?
Hey, DJ. Goja sasa. I want us to nominate who won. Sawa? Alafu tunafanya kitu inaitwa kelelemeta. Nani anajua kelelemeta? The one with the loudest kelele wins. Are we ready? So we are using kelelemeta. Sawa? Nikimshika unapiga kelele kama unajua amefanya kazi nzuri. Are we ready? Let's start with him. Kwa sababu ya kelelemeta tunakuomba uketi chini. Let's go. This one? Oh, this one. Nimeomba nianze na huyu. Thank you so much. We have our winner. Make sure you see me for your gift. And let's all sit down. Tuketi sasa. You have been such an amazing audience. Are we ready for this session? Humanitarians, Humanitarians are. Are we ready for this session? So, I want you to, I think we've been doing something since Monday. Nataka tuendelee nayo, sawa? So when I say give it up for, you clap, okay? Okay? Are we together? Give it up for. Derek Mungasia, I.O. me to 54 coordinator. Karibu sana. This will be the moderator of this panel. Tumpige makofi anapoingia. All right? And we'll be having a few people on this panel, starting with Mr. Benjamin Mackay, Senior Manager, Tech for Development, Safaricom. That will be virtual. So let's clap for him. Akiwa kwenye yako, tumpige makofi. We'll be ready to listen to him. We'll also be having Dr. Mariam Swale, Lead Ocean Climate Innovation Hub, Technical University of Mombasa. Tupige mwalimu makofi. We will also be having Priyanka Patel, KRCS International Center for Humanitarian Affairs. Tumpige makofi. And last but not least, we'll be having Goodin Paul, Innovator Biomedical Engineering student. Karibu sana, Goodin. Are we ready to learn? So we'll be taking questions at the end. So make sure you take notes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, humanitarians. I think that is how the session started this morning. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy to see all of you. It means that we are inspired about doing something around humanitarian work, maybe learning more or contributing more or collaborating more to support humanitarian work around our communities and around our country. We have an amazing panel today that is sitting before you. One of our panelists will be joining online. So I think I'll start by just saying that my name is Derek Mugasia. I work as coordinator for the IOME 254. If you've passed by the Al-Mazrui Hall, you've probably seen a few activities happening there with machines. That one is a fab lab and a maker space that I work with. We have one here in Mombasa and another one in Lamu. I want us to get to know the panelists that we have in the room with us today. So they're going to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about what they do. But just before they do that, I want to bring to our awareness the fact that a lot of things have changed. We have been privileged enough to live at a time where there's a time when conflict started in Russia, if you remember that, and people started tweeting and saying hashtag World War IV. Did you see that? Hashtag World War IV. Did you see that? And everyone was excited because you were saying, okay, we missed World War I. We don't know what we missed out on. We missed World War II because we were not there. World War III happened, we also did not experience it. So guys were getting excited saying, maybe we'll just get to experience what a world war looks like. Well, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Of course, it's not a good thing. But a lot of conflict has been happening, disasters have been happening, both natural and man-made. And whenever these are happening, we have humanitarian work that has to be called to attention to support ensuring that we are able to sustain life, to protect life, and to promote life and dignity of human beings. So that's why we're having this conversation today, because as that happens, World War I, when it was happening, there was no technology and people were making it as they go, both for response but also for conflict. World War II, the same, technology was growing. But where we are now, technology has grown so far that we want to make sure that we are also catching up with the technology, because it is what improves efficiency and effectiveness in everything that we do, which means responding to humanitarian action is not supposed to be left behind either. So I'm gonna bring in the panelists so that they can introduce themselves. And I want to start with Dr. Mariam, who is seated right next to me, to tell us about what she does, who she is, and then we pick it up from there.
So, habari zenu. How are you? So, my name is Dr. Mariam Swale from the Technical University of Mombasa. I have two roles, and one, I'm the project lead of the Ocean Climate Innovation Hub, and my second role is Assistant Registrar in charge of research and grants at the Technical University of Mombasa. I am from the Office of Partnership, Research and Innovation.
Good morning. I want to hear all of you say good morning, so I know if you're listening. Good morning. Good morning. How are you all? Okay, so how many of you know the response to Hinivu? Hinivu? Togetherness. So I'm from the Kenya Red Cross. My name is Priyanka Patel. I'm the country head of innovation. My role is around innovation advisory, but also providing solutions to the National Society in Kenya around how to use different ways of doing humanitarian aid, but also part of supporting the local community in coming up with their own versions of innovative solutions. So thank you so much for being here and giving us this time to talk to you.
Morning. Good morning. I'm Gooding Paul. I'm a student at Technical University of Mombasa. I'm currently taking medical engineering. In addition to that, I'm the founder of a company called That Blank Engineering and Research Company. If pardon? Yeah, the founder of That Blank Engineering Research Company. If you have passed through the booth, you would have seen us. So yeah, I'm one of the panelists.
Thank you very much, Goodin. Thank you, Priyanka. And thank you, Dr. Mariam. We have one more panelist that is joining us virtually. Mr. Makau Benjamin, can you hear us? Sound. We're just checking on the system. Mr. Benjamin, we're just a moment so we make sure that everyone can hear you. Tech team, should we try again? Should we try again? Yeah? Okay. Benjamin, please try again. Yeah, we still don't have the sound. Technology always does that thing, right? It waits for everyone to... But you know what I like about this is that you can make an entrance. So as a panelist, if everyone is waiting for you to introduce themselves this way, when everyone is quiet, there's suspense. So then he can make an entrance. But just one moment so that the team can sort that, and then we're able to continue. Are we good? Try again. Should you try again? Tech team? Yeah? Okay, Benjamin, please try again. Yes, now we can hear you perfectly. Please go on. Benjamin, we can hear you well now.
You can hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So there, yes, I see a message saying you can hear me. So should I go ahead and introduce myself?
Yes, please go on.
Please go on and introduce yourself. Thank you, Derek. So thank you for having us. Yeah, my name is Benjamin Makai from Safaricom. I lead the technology for development unit within Safaricom, and we are quite happy to be a part of this conversation. I would have really wanted to be there physically, but I arrived quite late, and I'll be joining you later. So as Safaricom is an organization, our purpose is to be Africa leading tech company, and basically what we do is more like to identify, develop, scale in products and services actually in areas such as humanitarian. And we do this with the name of deepening our commitment to purpose. We know what it takes to have situations which are really humanitarian, and it is all about the intersection between how technology can be infused, especially in such circumstances where we need to do some humanitarian work. So Safaricom has been working very closely with different organizations in this space, and we are looking forward to see how we could leverage on the pervasiveness of technology to make a difference in that particular space. So looking forward to these deliberations and seeing the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. We appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. Just to start off, we've said that there are a lot of things that are happening in the humanitarian world or require humanitarian work. And I want to just bring in Ms. Priyanka maybe to give us a background of this. We've seen a lot of humanitarian need or situations that have happened even within our country. Within this year alone, we see on the news a lot of disasters that are affecting different countries, different parts of the world. In terms of contextualizing this, how significant who is responsible for providing humanitarian aid, But what's the kind of scope that we have right now? What's the scale of humanitarian need as it is right now, both in the country, maybe in Africa, and globally? What's the scale of humanitarian need right now? And who is significant who is responsible to ensure that we are providing humanitarian aid to the people that need it?
Thank you for that question. I think when we talk about humanitarian aid, it starts from all of us, right? We all remember during the tiring times of the election time when there was a lot of conflict that had started off. The recent, as well, our Gen Z movement that also saw a lot of violence at the same time. We also saw floods, right? How many of us even visualized or imagined a city like Nairobi would have flooding? Nairobians definitely did not imagine that, okay? The reason I'm saying that is even in Mombasa, for instance, there's some certain streets that we did not expect to flood ever, had a bit of flooding there. Now, when it comes to humanitarian aid, what does it mean to be a humanitarian? What does it mean to be humanitarian or give back? When we support our neighbors, when we support our community, we all have a certain way we are contributing to someone that is in need. This may be financially, this may be by giving out your clothes, this may be by paying someone's medical bills, this may be by even paying for someone's education, or even receiving the support, right? So humanitarian doesn't have to be an organization like Kenya Red Cross. Humanitarian is all of us in this room. There's something that we're very proud of is our volunteers are the reason we exist as Kenya Red Cross. Just now someone was talking to me about disaster response, and I was also telling her that is the center of what the Red Cross does. But when it comes to humanitarian aid, whose responsibility is it? And why should someone do humanitarian aid? The example you started off the panel with, World War IV. I'm not entirely sure where the conflict situation of peace and conflict and all of that is, and we can't entirely speak to it at the moment. However, we all know the climate situation in the world, right? There is one part of the world which is overheated, and the other part of the world which is over-receiving rain, and there's another side of the world which is receiving none, and there's ice glaciers melting, right? The time we are in today, in 2024, moving into 2025 and the years to come, humanitarian aid is more desperate now than it was even 20 years ago. The reason I'm saying this is we're sort of going, it's a cycle. We're kind of going back in the cycle of where humanitarian aid initially started. It makes me remember the days where Red Cross, Red Crescent was founded by Henry Dunant, where he started in the World War period, and he realized people need response, people need support, people need aid, medical aid, all of that. So he decided to put together a team of volunteering doctors, and then the Red Cross was started like that. But today, is humanitarian aid all about providing first aid and medical aid? No. Humanitarian aid is providing economic opportunities. It's all about providing the right technology. It is providing the right support, right? And this is why even the topic today is exciting, because how is technology then contributing to that humanitarian aid? And I would say as Red Cross, we are responsible for humanitarian aid, but we are able, because of our partners, because of our volunteers, because of the people we are surrounded by, but because of the community, because the community is actually the people who are responding. They might be wearing our emblems and our jackets, but it is them who are the humanitarians in this picture. They're the ones on the field who are the humanitarian aid. So the time is now, desperately now.
And that's a good way to finish that explanation, because you've said we are responsible as an organization, Kenya Red Cross, but you've also said through our volunteers, through our partners, through everyone else, through the community. You finished by saying through the community, which means then that every other person that is sitting here, every other company that is not here that we work with or that we could work with, even the community itself that is affected is responsible to provide this aid, which is an important thing to know. On that note, I want to go to Benjamin online. I hope he can hear me. Safaricom, and not just Safaricom, corporates in general, corporates in the private sector are a key player. Corporates are a key player in ensuring that technology is driven and it's moving fast. Because usually the corporates, because the private sector usually has a different motivation that makes sure that these products, technological products, are getting to the market, and they're getting to the market on time. They're getting to the market when they can be used. Benjamin, what kind of products has Safaricom been able to put together? What kind of support has Safaricom been able to put together for humanitarian cause, especially here in Kenya? Benjamin, can you hear me? I don't think, he can't hear us, eh? Okay, please check on that and then let me know. I can come back to Benjamin after that. So in the spirit of technology and innovation, Goodin, as an innovator that is also sitting on this panel, what's the significance of youth? Priyanka said that it's everyone's responsibility. It's the community, it's the partners, it's the volunteers. What's the significance of youth-driven innovation? What's the significance of the youth innovators within ensuring that we're providing innovation for our humanitarian cause?
Okay, that's a really interesting question, Derek. One thing that I've noticed, and I believe every youth here has noticed, is we are currently the highest educated group of people currently in Kenya. That means we have the skill set to solve some of the problems that arises in our community.
So is it because innovation, is it pegged on education? Do you have to be educated then to be able to innovate and provide solutions for these communities?
Yes, and partly no. It's okay. So to solve a problem, it's okay. With education, what you get is a skill set, like a toolbox. You have a hammer, you have a nail, and you have anything else that's so happens to exist inside a toolbox. Now to solve that problem, that particular problem, given that set of tools, you can really actually solve it.
Thank you, Goodin, for that. And on the same note, Dr. Mariam, Goodin has said that we have the largest educated lot right now in the country, which means that academia, innovation cannot move fast enough without academia being brought into this conversation. From the point of view of Technical University of Mombasa, what's academia doing to promote and support innovation, especially innovation and technology development, maybe research as well, especially around humanitarian aid?
Okay, thank you very much, Derek, for that question. First of all, I would like to explain a little bit about what humanitarian. I would like to explain a little bit about why disaster management is important to us. I remember in 1997, when I was still in primary school, we woke up in the morning and there was water in our house. A lot of water. Kulikuwa na El Nino. I don't know. I'm sure most of you in 1997, you're not born yet. So imagine, mumeamka, there's water all over your house. You have nowhere to go. You can't even leave the house. And this is the case until now. We are in 2024, and there are families who've lost their property. There are people who, especially women, who end up being in situations where they need support, or they go through gender-based violence because they don't have access to basic sanitary needs, or or maybe they need to walk long distances because there is no water because of the drought. So as a university, coming up with innovations and technology that can address these humanitarian needs is very key to us. And one initiative that the university that is hosting is the project I'm leading, the Ocean Climate Innovation Hub, because climate change is the biggest disaster currently. Manake, with climate change, you get issues of flooding and droughts, where you'll have problems of food security, and as well security in general, because if you don't have a place to go because your house is flooded, you're in a dangerous situation. So number one, in the university, we ensure there is research is need-based. Our research is need-based, and for the research, after the research, we make sure there are innovations that come out from those research. And these innovations, we make sure that these innovations are addressing the current situations, like issues of climate change, issues of food security, or issues that, like right now, we are working on issues related to early warning signs. If there is flooding, if the El Nino comes back again, how are we able to detect it? And how are we able to protect ourselves? So as an institute, we have the Office of Partnership Research and Innovation, where we support student innovations. And also, apart from that, we make sure that everyone is involved. And here, everyone, I don't mean just the students and the lecturers, we also involve the community. We have partnerships with with the people in the industry, other innovation hubs, or other, let's say we have partnerships with hospitals, we have partnerships with Red Cross, so that we are able to co-design these solutions, because we, Kiswahili tunasema, kidole kimoja hakiui chawa, si ndio? So it is a community effort. Thank you.
I like that, partnerships that then ensures that there is inclusivity, there is a roundtable discussion for the programs to be able to meet the need that is at the community level. I'm just wondering, maybe I check again if we have Benjamin back, tech team. Benjamin, can you hear me? Benjamin, can you hear me? He can't hear me. Okay. So we'll move on then from here. I'm just wondering, in the spirit of partnerships and ensuring that there is conversations that bring in information about where research is supposed to be done by academia, where innovation is supposed to be done. Priyanka, coming to you. What are the existing gaps in humanitarian, in the humanitarian landscape? What are the areas that need innovation urgently, that need technological innovation urgently? Even as Dr. Mariam is listening, and Goodin is here as an innovator, and a lot of other innovators that are sitting here, where are the opportunities that they need to start focusing on and say, we need to provide solutions for area 1, 2, 3, 4? How does that look like right now?
I want to start by asking the audience a question, if that's okay. How many of you are innovators in here? Or how many of you have innovated before? Raise your hands. How many of you are great in ideas? Ideas? How many of you are dreamers? I'm expecting all of you to be dreamers, right? How many of you understand what is technology? Come on, all of you are Gen Zs in here. You can't say you don't know what technology is. Who doesn't know what technology is? Okay, I'll just assume that the rest are shy to raise their hands up, okay? What are the gaps? I don't know how to answer that question directly, but I think I'll start by saying there's no gap, but there's a crack, if that's the best way to start. I think when humanitarian aid or humanitarian workers deliver humanitarian services, they go with one mindset. We want to help, we want to make a difference, we want to have a positive effect on the community or on the family or the household or the children, whatever it may be, at the end of the day. But the continuous practice that we continue to see, at least from where I sit within the Red Cross or even within other humanitarian organizations that we work with, is there's a lot of traditional ways of doing things, right? And that is why I'm saying there's a crack, because it's like saying you've had this really nice foundation of humanitarian work going on, but we're not constantly repairing our floor, we're not constantly maintaining our buildings, and therefore every time something new comes in, we've heard this word of emerging technologies or changing trends, every time that hits the building, if we don't have the right way of protecting our humanitarian work or the communities that need this assistance, there will be cracks in our buildings, there will be cracks on the floor, and very soon you'll find two different plates, right? There's the traditional side there, who like to do traditional things, so traditional humanitarian workers and tech-savvy humanitarian workers, which is why I'm saying there's no gap. There's sort of like a crack, which is becoming sort of like a boundary line as well. And I think in terms of how that crack needs to be reduced or slowed down is all of you in here. If you have an idea, you are powerful, because that idea can be given to likes of Goodin and other innovators in this room to make the idea into a solution that comes back to us humanitarian workers to then go back to the community that are the dreamers to deliver that particular idea into a working solution. Have we solved that crack problem? Yes, we have. Do we need international support to do that? We don't. We are all able to do it. And I think the biggest enabler of that crack is the lack of trust in ourselves. And I think the lack of appetite, even internally, and the lack of like, I can do it, I can push my boundaries, I can keep doing it. I'm sure he'll tell you, but I'm sure you've gone through challenges in delivering your solutions, and I'm sure all of you have gone through challenges. Safaricom didn't just grow up into being this leadership organization overnight, right? And if Benjamin, you can hear me, you can quote me next if you want, but then you started somewhere as well. M-Pesa started somewhere, right? iPhone started somewhere. And so did our mental health applications. How many of us talked about mental health 5 years ago? Not me. Did any of you? And in the past 1 year, how many of you are constantly surrounded by mental health? We even know there's an actual month for it. Someone was talking to me about suicidal awareness the other day, like just right now. And did we know there's an actual celebration or an actual day dedicated and a month dedicated to cancer, suicide awareness, mental health, women empowerment, women entrepreneurship, all of this? Where is it all coming from? Someone somewhere in the corner of this world is thinking about these days, is thinking about this advocacy, this movement. And that is exactly where we come in to bridge that crack or that gap with the academia and the research. When you were introducing, I represent the International Center for Humanitarian Affairs, along with the Kenya Red Cross. But our role is not just to innovate, but to actually see what works and what doesn't work, okay? So the dreamers in here, if you feel nobody's listening to you, you have the best place here in Mombasa, actually, to go and do that, go and achieve that. Because I don't know, it's a crack, but also at the same time, we have the right plastering to fix this crack. And you guys are that plaster, okay? So help us avoid that crack, because very soon you'll find conflict growing, you'll find climate action that is urgently needed as of 10 years ago, you'll find a lot of GBV cases and all of this going up, disease outbreaks, you'll find another COVID coming, and the same history will repeat itself, because we will not change anything.
History repeating itself, issues like GBV always happening, natural calamities happening, and I want to come to Goodin because even as Priyanka you're saying, there are gaps that are in all these things that keep repeating themselves, which means that we will always be in the business of trying to sort out some GBV issues for a while. They've always been there ever since. They seem to continue. In humanitarian work, there is work that is done before response. There is work that is done during response. There is work that is done after response. I'm wondering, Goodin, are you aware, as an innovator, and not just you, but youthful innovators that are also sitting here, are you aware of these opportunities, these places that need solutions to be designed for? If you're not, then where do you think the gap is? Why don't the innovators know that there's need for certain solutions to be built to be able to address these gaps that exist around GBV, around floods, around these other things, communication that Safaricom is helping us with? Why are we not seeing enough of this coming up?
Okay, to answer that question, one example of a project that I've worked on with a couple of friends is a flood detector. We simply just detect the level of water in the river, and if it floods, we have a notification, you get an alarm, and you get something is raised, and the local communities are able to be warned that the flood is coming. Okay, so for that problem to be identified, personally, I had the skills to deliver it, but I didn't know where exactly to apply it. So with collaboration with the Red Cross and IOME Fab Labs, we were able to come up with such and such solution. Another good example is the digital microscope. Currently, in the high schools, the type of microscope that they use the light microscope. And there's a problem there. That thing is really, really hard to use. There's a learning curve to it. And you are giving them those things to kids. So there's a problem. Okay, so the problem that exists with that type of microscope, it's, yes, the learning curve. And what solution did we come up with? We made a digital one. And personally, I could not have seen that problem if I did not collaborate or I did not work with people from Red Cross, people from IOME, also people from outside the continent. So what am I trying to say? I believe that if you want to make something that really matters, that really solves a problem, you don't do it in your field. It creates something like an inbreeding of ideas. If I'm somebody from software designing and I just sit around people who do software, there's nothing unique that will come up from there. But if I go and sit with somebody who does design, for example, somebody who does marketing, somebody who does in the medical field, there's something beautiful that can be made from there. Examples are those which I've given. Back on the challenges that we have faced. Personally, I'm a hardware developer. Are there any hardware developers here? People who work with Arduinos, microcontrollers? Are there any? Okay. Are there any software engineers here? People who work with code, they develop websites? Just show of hands. Okay, there's one over there. Okay, there's two. Just raise your hands high. Okay, so some of the challenges that I personally faced, for example, if you're trying to develop a circuit, one of the early solutions that we are given is using acid. You draw it by hand, you place it somewhere, it takes a lot of time. Think of it like a whole day. You're doing it for a whole day. But recently, with IOME at the Fab Labs, that thing can be done in under 15 minutes. You simply design it and the whole process is automated. Yeah, I think that's the thing that the point I'm trying to cover across. The idea that you also need to collaborate with people from outside your field.
I like the profoundness of that. You work in your own field, you only see things from your perspective, from your view, and then you miss out on some of the things that are happening, opportunities that are in other fields. And within the same context, Dr. Mariam, if then we have to collaborate, as Goodin is saying, if we have to take ourselves to other fields for us to know what is out there, what needs to be solved. What does the ecosystem of humanitarian actors, the ecosystem of entrepreneurs, the ecosystem of innovators, what does this ecosystem need to do for us, for you as an academia, someone from academia, for the academic fraternity to be able to then provide more programs around humanitarian work, or to be able to encourage more, promote more innovations around humanitarian aid?
Okay, I would say innovation is a process, and also for us to get to that innovation or the product or the service that the innovation comes up with, or that is produced from the idea, number one, we need to build those partnerships. And there was a time I went to another conference. I met a lady. She's from the community. She has a great idea, but she's afraid to come to the university to seek help. So I would say that our institutes are open and ready to welcome anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, because we have the facility, we have the capacity, we have the professionals and experts, as well as the labs to do the research and develop your innovation. So number one, we need to have these collaborations with the community or people from the industry. And the only way we can have this collaboration is by you people coming to us and telling us that we have this great idea, we want to co-design together. Number two, we also need to, as an institute, we also go out there to find out what are the problems and how can we come together to solve them. So this is through coming for workshops like this, or the other way is through the community coming to us and tell us there's this issue, we feel that there's more need for, or there's need for programs in this space. For example, recently we already have this maritime and nautical engineering, but still we didn't have a directorate. But now, because we've started it, because there's this need for like solutions in the maritime industry. There is need for solutions for renewable energy. But how do we know that? We need to get people from the industry coming to us and tell us that there is this problem, or when we come to you, you should be able to accommodate us. Then, so through research and capacity building and building these collaborations, that's the only way the academia can be supported. And right now, the government is pushing all learning institutes to innovate, patent, and commercialize ideas. And as an institute, like TOM is a public institute, we don't have that capacity to commercialize everything, or even incubate a product to commercialization. So we need also financial support to do that. But sometimes people, support cannot come in finances, but also it can come through this collaboration or in-kind support. That we have the innovators, we have lecturers who have done their research. How can you support us in commercializing them? The other thing, whenever we speak about innovation, we only think about engineering and technology and IT. But there are innovations in arts and social sciences. Right now, I'm a marine scientist. Right now, we're working with artists to communicate our research, because we cannot do research and publish it and put it in the library. So how can we disseminate it? How can the community get this research, understand what we are doing, so that they can use it? So we are currently also working with artists, different types of artists, musicians, painters, people in, what are they called, actors, so as we can communicate this research. If I'm talking about climate change, as a scientist, I'm going to talk about it in a very technical way. But if I have an artist who can communicate this, so there's also a gap there. There's a huge gap between the scientists and the artists. So we need to, we need to come together and come up with these solutions. We could design them together. And also, lastly, as an institute, Technical University of Mombasa, when people hear Technical University, you're just thinking the technology. We have all of these programs. We have programs in social sciences and in business, which are very relevant to this area of innovation. Thank you.
As we come to a close, and thank you so much, Dr. Mariam, for bringing that up. Priyanka, just briefly, Dr. Mariam has talked about commercialization. She has said that this is one of the areas that we need to. Now, there's an innovator sitting here, and Gooding is also here, saying, maybe I find a problem around flooding, and I solve it, and I bring this to a humanitarian organization. There's probably just like, only a handful of those in the country. They are probably the ones that are going to acquire this. How is this going to make commercial sense to him so that then he can be motivated to develop this solution, to provide it for it to go and impact people? If the only people that are going to purchase this from him are the 5 humanitarian organizations that are operating there, what do we need to do then to make sure that commercially we have a commercial case that can encourage humanitarian solutions and innovators to provide solutions for humanitarians, even though it's not going to perhaps be sold at such a large level like Safaricom is selling its product?
I think, and this is the last one as well, so let me try and shorten it because I'm seeing the pressure of time. I think when it comes to innovators, and it's surprising that we don't have any hardware, software engineers in the room, but anyone aspiring to be software or hardware experts or engineers, I think when humanitarian actors, or in this case, research institutes, look for solutions, they look for solutions not for today, but they look for solutions that can support them for 10 years, okay? So I would suggest innovators that go commercial should go commercial with that one product that can promise them revenue for the 10 years and that they can sustain for 10 years. What I mean by sustain is they can continue to iterate that particular idea or that particular product. If M-Pesa remained how it was, and I'm speaking for Benjamin because he's not able to connect, but if M-Pesa was to continue doing USSD, then how would we bring in the new users and the new devices so they have adapted to the changing needs and the changing environment? They have created an application. There was a time they changed the application as well, right? So the same thing goes with innovators. For the humanitarian sector, if you're creating a mental health chatbot, for instance, that mental health chatbot can be useful now, but next year it's going to be old. Like everyone's going to be bored. People will delete it from their phone as well. What is it that you're doing to continue your, helping your users remain engaged? If you look at social media, Reels were just started, 3 years ago or something? TikTok started a few years ago, but it's literally shot up. So I think the importance or the advice I would give for those going commercial is find your niche of surviving the market. And one more thing I want to say is your idea is not different from someone else's idea. How you present your idea, how you package your idea, how you move the idea into an actual solution is where you win. Okay? We all dream about cars that can fly. But the person who makes that car that can fly is not the game changer. The person who makes the car is just the enabler. But the person who pitches it and gets funding for that flying car for production is the game changer. Does that make sense? Yeah? If you look at the CEOs, if you look at the managing directors, if you look at company owners, I'm not technical, by the way. I may be the innovation manager, but I don't know anything about software and electrical engineering or even hardware for that matter of fact. But we're the sellers out there. But there is a team on the other side that's making it possible for us to sell what they're doing. Does that make sense? Right? So I'll come back to saying, for anyone going commercial, you can't do it alone. You have to do it as a team. Startups come to humanitarian partners. We've had 3 startups we've worked with for digital solutions, and all 3 startups have shut down last year. And the entire platform, digital solutions that we designed or worked on with them, with millions of shillings that have gone into it, they gave it to us, but it is where it is. It can't move until we get a new consultant to do it. So you have to survive for you to continue providing to us. And you have to make us help you survive financially.
Fair enough. So then, Goodin, as you also maybe just as you give your concluding remarks, Priyanka has talked about mental health chatbots. You've been doing a lot of innovations around emerging technologies. Just as a parting shot, what are these maybe trending, or what is the one trending technology that you think this one, within the next 5-10 years, it's the one that is going to revolutionize humanitarian aid in this country?
Okay, to answer that question, I think everyone has noticed that, we are living in a really interesting time. One of the solutions, one of the products that I'm seeing that will be really, really big in 10 years' time is just AI. I think all of you have used ChatGPT and the sorts. Okay, so what's my vision in 10 years' time from now? I believe that with every civilization, with every century, with every millennia, it's described by one invention or one creation, something that we have made. Boats. There was a time that you are literally stuck in that one continent that you live, that one island. But somebody just decides to put something on water and it floats. And we all decided that we are going that way. We don't know if there's land over there, there's nothing. We literally don't know. But we've set forth. Come to steam engines. We literally, we didn't colonize the planet. We were colonized by others. Thanks to, but we are part of the human race. So we literally colonized the entire planet. We moved everywhere. Come to computers. We are literally really connected. I'm not sure if you've realized that I can talk to somebody in China, have my PCB boards designed, and have it back in 4 days. I don't think if you see what I'm trying to push forward. Also another thing, the rate of development that we are doing. I remember there are some projects that took me months of pure research. You just go to the library, you go to Google, you search under Stack Overflow, you ask a question, nobody replies to you, somebody tells you to read the documentation, and you are 6 years old, you've never really, you have no idea what he's talking about. But right now, if you have anybody who's learning to program right now with ChatGPT, you are really lucky, because there's some project, that's what I'm saying, that there's some project that took me months, I'm finishing them in 2 days or 1 day. Also another thing that I'm also realizing that that aspect of collaboration. I've had the opportunity to work with some really exciting and innovative people from across the world. Somebody has this idea, he has this urge, this burn inside himself, and I also have the urge, the burn interest, and we are able to collaborate since we are connected. So if we combine those 3 things, that we are really connected, these emerging technologies lowering the rate of research. Oh, and one last thing, IOMI Fab Labs. The prototyping cycle that I'm going through right now, it's also fast. Something that we were taking almost, I think, 2 days, 3 days, handcrafting by hand. We are simply 3D printing them in another 30 minutes. So yeah, combining those 3 things, distributed manufacturing, AI, increasing the rate of research, and the connectivity, how much ideas can be shared between different people. The way I see it in the next 10 years, the next 5 years, that we'll be entering a really interesting time whereby advancement solutions and the product that we're producing will be quite unique.
Thank you, Goodin. Dr. Mariam, you have the final word. I'm just curious, now that everything has been said and we've talked about the fact that academia, all this technology is not moving if academia is not involved. But we also know that Goodin started by saying he's an innovator, but he's also a student. So when there are projects, there are a lot of interesting projects that will be done at the university that for most part will be presented at the end of course, and then they will leave them there and walk away and say, I'm going to get employment. But these are innovative solutions that perhaps would even impact how humanitarian aid is delivered to the people who are needful, who need it. What's academia doing right now? What's the research industry doing right now to ensure that we have these products moving outside the research institutions and to get to the communities that need them when they're affected?
As an institute, we make sure that, I know we've been having that challenge for some time. We have students who are great innovators and they leave. And this does not affect students only, sometimes staff members. You innovate something and you feel that it won't go anywhere. So what we are doing as an institute through our office, Partnership Research and Innovation, is to get these great ideas. We have a team. We don't work alone. We have a team, innovation leads, and who supports these students to make sure that these innovations get to the right people. So, like I said before, it's a process. So once we identify that this innovation is good, we make sure that as an institute we have some funding to support that, but it's not enough. So we have organizations that we have collaborations with, we have MOUs with, who we approach, and we ask them to partner with us in this project or to support this project so that it is commercialized. Then the other way is to also make sure that these students are exposed, they come to events like this, Pwani Innovation Week, we had the showground, ASK show, so that these students are able to exhibit their projects and possibly also pitch those ideas or projects with the intention that, or with the hope that they'll get an investor who is willing to invest in that idea or project. And also, the other thing is we actively look for grants, so that if we notice or we see that there's potential in that idea, we get grants to support it. But as I said before, the key thing here, learning institutes or research institutes can't work alone. Collaboration is a must. And that's the direction as Technical University of Mombasa we are taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam. Collaboration is a must. That's the final word that she has put in there. So in whatever it is that you're doing in your company, in your organization, in your innovation, try to find a way to contribute to humanitarian cause. I think from what you've had here today, there's a lot that is going on, but it needs all of us to hold our hands to be able to respond to the humanitarian need that is always coming, and for most part, you can't even predict it. So your innovation, your solution is always going to be relevant. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my panel, Goodin Paul, Priyanka Patel, and Dr. Mariam Swale. It's been a pleasure to have you also listen to us. And question. I don't know if we'll be given that time, MC. Do we have time for
5 minutes? I'll take 2 questions, okay?
Perfect.
One from this side. Was there somebody who had a question? Okay.
Hello, my name is Umazi. I'm from Kwale Youth Assembly. I have one question. So, as more business partners become involved in the area of humanitarian innovation, how do we ensure that the corporate sector involved in humanitarian response understand humanitarian principles and operate according to the humanitarian standards?
Did you get that?
I'm just going to repeat. You're asking how the humanitarian sector understands, sorry, the corporate sector understands what the humanitarian sector is looking for. No? Okay.
What I'm asking is, as more business partners are involved in the humanitarian sectors, so how do we ensure that the partners that are involved, they understand humanitarian principles and operate according to humanitarian standards?
So I think there's various ways we've been practicing that. Should I respond now or I take a second?
Let's take the second one so
Okay,
that you guys
sorry.
can respond them all. Do you have another question from here? Where? Did you have a question? So we don't have any other question. You can respond to that.
Okay. I think there's various ways that we do that, as I was saying. One is we have several meetings, a lot of meetings with the private sector to tell them what we are looking for. I'd like to say the private sector is also one of the funding partners or the funding sectors of the humanitarian organizations, including government partners. So government institutions and government bodies do fund humanitarian organizations such as the Red Cross, but the private sector is the one that funds it the most. How do we get private sector to appreciate and also respect the humanitarian principles is what you asked of. There's something called CSR that the private sector also have within their work, within their policies. This allows them to give back to the society, give back to the community. A lot of the times, humanitarian partners actually peg their support or requests on that CSR approach. Some private sectors have it from a percentage basis. So let's say like 5% of their annual revenue goes to humanitarian cause. Then the Red Cross or any other organizations is able to tap into 0.5% of that or 1% of that because they distribute it across the humanitarian partners. So they can't give the entire 5% pot to one partner. The other way of doing it is you involve them from the word go. You involve private sector in every single conversation that you have about disasters, whether it comes from preparedness, response, recovery, as well as restoration stage. When you do that, they tend to appreciate every step that humanitarian partners carry out, or humanitarian organizations carry out, to do response and preparedness work. It is not always very positive in terms of response. Sometimes they want to just come in, get the fame or branding, and then they go out. But out of 100%, you have at least 60% of private sector, or 70%, that are in it for the actual good humanitarian cause. The one thing that I've noticed in my experience is there's certain foundation partners or certain companies or corporates or multinational companies who want to stay in the humanitarian work for years in. So they go into agreements, they go into memorandum of understandings, where they actually commit to being your partner for the next 3 years or 5 years and allocate a certain funding amount. There's two ways of doing this. There's one is financial support, and the other is in-kind support. We tend to appreciate both support in its own ways, and I would say the in-kind has much more valued support as well because it includes capacity building, linkages to partners and networking. It also includes things like food donations or non-food item donations, which they would procure and give it to us. So we doesn't have to go through our systems or processes to give to the community. It's much faster. And I think private sectors, I would say, is more financially able to take risks than the humanitarian organizations. Because for humanitarian organizations, once we have received funding for floods, even if there's no floods happening and there's drought, we can't take that money and provide it for drought unless the partner approves it. Yet the partner has that flexibility to convert the funding into drought or into floods at their convenience, or if they feel convinced. So I'd say private sector partnership, humanitarian organizations they literally take steps together. You can't have one without the other when it comes to humanitarian service delivery. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give it up for the panel today. Give it up for Derek Mungase for the amazing work that you did. So, I would love us to take a photo, a group photo. So where's our photographer? Photographer, thank you. Thank you so much. Once again, give it up for the panel that was right here for the amazing insights. I saw people writing notes, so I'm sure we have a very, very great audience today. So we are moving on to the next topic. But before we do that, I see we have people who look very tired and bored. So, DJ, are you ready? DJ? DJ? Okay, so we all stand up. I want us to have a breather for about 3 minutes as I invite the next panel on stage. So, tusimame tafadhali. Simama. Tell your neighbor, usichoke. The next segment is very, very interesting. I want to hear a very loud applause for the innovators in the house. Do we have any innovators? Do we have innovators in the house? Do we have innovators in the house? Where are you? I want to hear you shouting, innovators, hey! Innovators, hey! So the next segment is for you guys. The next segment will be talking about the strategies and the opportunities you guys have. So make sure you have a pen and a paper so that we can take all the notes. DJ, are you ready? Hey! Let's go. I'll still need somebody. Who might dance peke yake? Wangapi wanalindwa na sagodi peke yake? Wangapi wanalindwa na sagodi peke yake? Wawi.
Tena wanafiki bado nakula nao. Na hainipi shida riziki ya watoi wao. Ex wangu wanatamani niachike. Nifubaye niishe nidhalilike. Adui zangu wanatamani.
As the music is playing, I want to see people moving in front. Let's occupy the seats that are in front of us, tafadhali.
Kuna muda kama sami na kuna muda nikana tunaje. Wanapenzi lako ngeketi. Niko macho ya josha tuliamini. For your love let me sing. Nishakolea hatari nipenzi. Tabu pipi ya kijiti. Ukilamba nacheka. Na kibaridi hiki. Mwezeshi na tambala mkeka. Penzi halishikiki.
When you touch my body, you make me lose my mind. You give me something, poco loco, come, baby, spend my money. I feel I'm deep in you, because I got you, my love. If I offend you, see my back. And we come back, apologize. Baby girl, you sweetie, honey. Okwangu wa uhakika, unitamu gani? Weza kumenishika. Baby girl, you sweetie, honey. Okwangu wa uhakika, unitamu gani? Muda wote vurumai.
Just a little announcement. In the main auditorium, there is a session going on about nailing the interview. So if you're interested in that, you can catch that.
Baby, far away. Kila kitu my baby, si unajua moyo wangu, ngumu kupenda watu wengi, ukinigusa I like it, ukinitomasa I like it, ukinipa
With you belly me papa, I like it so my lord. Let me call you sweetie honey. Wakongo uhakika, unitamu gani?
We can take a seat as we welcome the next panelist. Get it up again.
I've never seen a girl so beautifully, oh mama. I've never seen a girl so wonderfully.
Let's settle down, tafadhali. Let's settle down.
Like you come, baby, nakuwaza kichwa kinauma. Baby, nakupenda sana, utasipende ukinuna.
Let's settle down, tafadhali. Let's stand it, kule juu, tushuke chini, make your way down into the amphitheater and settle down. We are starting the next segment in a minute. We are starting in 1 minute, so if you're standing outside the amphitheater, make your way down and find a space to sit. Make your way down. Let's settle down in the amphitheater. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Innovators Oil. Innovators Oil. So what is the biggest challenge for an innovator? Umepata hiyo idea, what is the biggest challenge you get? DJ kidogo. DJ. I asked a question. Umepata hiyo idea yako, umeidevelop vizuri. What is the biggest challenge you get? What is the biggest challenge? Somebody who's confident. Somebody mwenye shaipitia hii challenge. One big challenge innovators get. Yes. Tell us.
Hi everyone. My name is Damaris Mokuhe and I'm an innovator and an entrepreneur. And I think I can mention just two quickly. One of the biggest challenges that as an innovator, especially as a startup that you get, it is connectivity to the funds and how well you can use them in your business or in your innovation. And the second challenge that you get and you have to keep up with the pace of the entrepreneurship space is that you have to keep up with the market trends. You cannot stick to one. Even though you started up with an idea that was so innovative and everyone loved it and everything, you have to keep up with the market trends. Yes.
So she gave us two challenges. Number one, in one word, funding. And the other one is keeping up with the trends, right? So today we will be answering the first challenge, okay? We want to know, where do we go to get this funding? What are the strategies will we use? And what are the opportunities we can get as innovators? So to answer that big challenge innovators get, I am ready to invite my panel on stage, starting with the moderator of this panel, Mr. Stanley Gishovi, Manager, Global Development Incubator. Karibu sana, Mr. Stanley. Pigieni makofi. Anakuja kutuambia tunapata wapi pesa ya kuendeleza hizi innovations zetu. Karibu sana, Mr. Stanley. Joining him on stage is the CEO Mombasa Investment Corporation, Mr. Sahale Bawazir. Where's Mr. Sahale? Mr. Sahali, Miss Sahali. I'm sorry about that, Miss Sahali. Karibu sana, CEO Investment Corporation. Karibu sana. The next person on stage is Amani Katana, CEO Youth Empowerment Program Initiative. Mr. Amani, where are you? He's on his way. All right. The next person to come on stage is Anthony Karanja, Workforce Development Lead, MasterCard Foundation. Clap for Mr. Anthony as he makes his way on stage. And the last person to join us on stage is Mr. Rob Omondi from Imaginable Futures. Mr. Rob, karibu sana on stage. Mr. Moderator, we are ready now.
Thank you for the amazing introduction. And I think this panel is an exciting panel because it's all about exactly, Cindy. So I want to start by saying, before I come to my panelists and us introducing ourselves, Mombasa has a population of 562,000 young people, of which 370,000 or around there are out of work, out of school, and out of employment. And if we really dig deeper, the population that joins class 1, the ones that manage to finish Form 4 is only 31%. So we have around 61% of young people falling off. This has in turn created a lot of challenges with skilling and getting jobs. However, if you flip that a little bit, Mombasa itself is home to 205,000 small businesses, employing over 440,000 people. So you see the gap in employment and where we are seeing a lot of employment. However, these businesses continue to face a number of challenges, as we know, from accessing the right skills, licensing issues and regulations, but most of all, access to finance. Do you agree? Kuna shida ya pesa? Kuna shida ya pesa? I don't think these guys have a money problem. Do you guys have a money problem? Okay, fine. It sounds now like you have a money problem. So then there are challenges. Not only lack of access to finance is a challenge, not lack of finance is a challenge, access to finance in itself is a challenge. We have traditional methods like getting loans from banks that will require a lot of collateral, high interest rates. At the moment, it's around 26% interest from the banks. So today's conversation is very important because we want to discuss how to keep on incentivizing innovation by looking at innovative financial model and how that actually links to addressing the biggest challenge we have in Mombasa, which is employment. And to that point, I will introduce myself. I'm Stanley Gichobi, a manager from the Global Development Incubator and a partner at SwahiliPot Hub, where together we are implementing the Global Opportunity Youth Network, an initiative that seeks to create sustainable impact for increased livelihood among young people. And today with me, I'm joined by esteemed people, and I'll start with the lady. Introduce yourself, give us an overview of what you do, then we can pass around.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sahale Bawazir. I am the Managing Director of Mombasa Investment Corporation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Habari zenyu? Habari zenyu? Mkikuwa kunisalimia, you know I'm standing between you and lunch. Habari zenyu? Okay, my name is Anthony Karanja. I work for the young people, but I'm employed by MasterCard Foundation. And I'm glad to be here today.
Good afternoon. Abaria Sai. Yes, my name is Rob Omondi. I'm in the investment team at Imaginable Futures, supporting our partners across Africa. I'm also a young person, so I'm very passionate about this topic. So very excited to be here and looking forward to engaging.
Yeah, and I'll start there with Rob, and then we can come to the rest of the panelists. You've mentioned you're investing. What are you learning in terms of some of the innovative ideas that you're seeing, some of the innovations that are coming up within your sector as an investor?
Thank you for that. So I'll maybe preface this by talking about how Imaginable Futures, we think around investing. SwahiliPot is a partner of ours and one of our biggest investments to date. And how we are seeing, so one of the first things we really believe in is in investing in local founders who are very close to the problem. So at the end of the day, hao ndio wako kwa ground na wanaelewa ni nini inafanyika chini, so they know best what the solution is, who to talk to when it comes to figuring out what's the right solution. So that's a key thing for us. And through our partnership with SwahiliPot, we're learning a lot about how young people, particularly in the coastal region, are really taking advantage of the opportunities that are available, particularly in the tourism sector. And you know, yesterday we heard a lot about the blue economy and the orange economy. So it's very interesting to see how even creative entrepreneurs are able to take advantage. I think the most interesting one for me was a lady who curates very specific Airbnb tours for guests who are visiting the town. If you think about it, as a Mombasa native, you are the one who knows best what's happening in your town. So imagine being able to get livelihood by taking people around, you know, the city that you're born in or the city that you grew up in. So there's very many different ways that young people within Mombasa are trying to, you know, just make life work for themselves.
Thank you so much. I've had blue economy, I've had hospitality and tourism, and I've heard about creative, yeah? So, Anthony, what's your sense? Where are people looking at? And as MasterCard, where are you looking at?
As MasterCard Foundation. So, where are people looking at? Where are young people? So, allow me first of all to say who we are, because that then defines what we do and why we do it. So, the foundation was started off in 2006 of a generous gift by MasterCard. But we are totally two different entities, and we were set up to one as a private foundation to support young people across of Africa to enable them to do two things. Number one, to access education and skills, and that's why one of our flagship programs is the Wings to Fly Scholarship, or the Scholars Program, where we support young people to go and access university education across the world. But then secondly was to enable communities access financial inclusion and elevate them from poverty. That was how we started. But in 2017, and we were operating off Canada, but had programs across the continent. But in 2017, the foundation made a deliberate decision to do two things. Number one is to have a deliberate focus on Africa and young Africans, and that's where the Young Africa Work strategy was started. But then two was to have offices across the continent and employ Africans to lead the work, because oftentimes has been people from outside coming to lead development work in the continent. And that's where the Kenya office, being one of the offices in the foundation, was started, and people like myself got an opportunity. And our mission across of Africa is to enable 30 million young Africans to access dignified and fulfilling work. And I'll explain what dignified and fulfilling work. But with a clear focus of enabling particularly young women to access dignified work. In Kenya, we have a mission of enabling 7 million young people, but 5 million young women to access dignified work. Why young women? Because for the longest time, young women have faced barriers to employment, right? Young women have been forced to stay out of school, have been forced to take care of other chores and not to economically empower ourselves. And as we heard yesterday, empowering a young woman is not just the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do because it empowers a whole generation. And what is dignified and fulfilling work? Dignified and fulfilling work is, from the mouths of young people, the work that, one, pays well, but also enables a young person have respect and dignity from the work that we do. So that's who we are, and we've been operating in Kenya for the last couple of years. But just to respond to your question, Gishobi, which are the sectors we are seeing, and particularly from the coastal communities? Blue economy has for the longest time been one key sector that has been thriving and continues to thrive, and there are myriads of opportunity within the blue economy. But we're also seeing the creative space, hospitality in Mombasa. When you talk about Mombasa, we always think about the beach, the nice hotels, and there are myriads of opportunities across there. But we are also seeing AI and the digital economy coming up and enabling young people to pursue, and SwahiliPot being a significant player in raising up techies and young people who can be able to leverage on the digital economy, connecting with the global world, right? But then we're also seeing renewable energy. Kenya has for the last couple of years been a force within the green space and creating green opportunities. But also, the mainstay of Kenya and what Kenya is known for is agriculture, right? And the coastal region, in as much as, we don't grow much, there are things that are growing here that we can be able to leverage on. And so as a foundation, our work is premised upon meeting young people wherever they are, in the sectors that they are, and enabling them, unlocking the barriers, enabling them to access the right kind of skills, because you're cognizant that a lot of us, as Gishobi mentioned, dropped out of school for one reason or another, right? And every year, there are only 200,000 jobs that are being created, but you have 800,000 young people getting to the job market. There are not enough jobs. How can we spur up and enable young people access jobs? And we love the fact that we have entrepreneurs here and people who are wanajituma or want to create opportunities. But there are barriers there. We do not have the right kind of skills, so how can we work with the ecosystem to create the right kind of skills? But also, very importantly, as all of you rightfully put, there is not enough, or there's not available financing models that you can be able to tap on. And that's one of the things we are cracking our heads around. How can we create right financing models that young entrepreneurs can be able to leverage on? Because today, if you have an idea as a young person, oftentimes, if you go to a financial institution, the only thing you'll come out with is your idea, right? Not financing. So how can we enable some of these financial institutions, both formal and informal, begin to appreciate and allow young people to develop their ideas, but not just with loans, but also with seed funding, for example, with incubation and allowing young people to learn and fail. Because a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that oftentimes their first idea that they have is not what they are currently doing today, right? It has evolved over time. They have learned, they have failed, but on it all, they've been able to build up. So we need to enable our entrepreneurs to be able to grow. So funding that allows them to do that, to grow and fail, but also continue to work with them, handhold them. Because yes, you might have an idea, but it's one thing to have an idea and another thing to have a successful business out of that idea, right? But it's also another thing to be able to manage a business. So can we enable young people, one, to access capital, but also gain the skill sets to be able to grow their enterprises? And that's what we are trying to do within the various sectors that young people are in within the coastal region.
Amazing. You've heard what he said, which I find is interesting. You go with an idea to fundraise, and the only thing you come up with out is another version ya kudm, alafu next year unaji DM high back. Great. I want to come to Sahale. Mombasa Investment Corporation. Where do you see either interest from people or where you think people should look at when it comes to investment?
There are various sectors which are very key in Mombasa's economy. One of them being transport and logistics. When I mention transport and logistics specifically, we can look on innovation in transport and logistics. How can we streamline processes in freight forwarding, clearing, things like this? Another sector which is very key, and you can hear this being mentioned by the various panelists, of course, is blue economy. In blue economy, Mombasa has not really explored this sector fully, and there is innovation that can come out from blue economy, like marine technology. How can we tap into this kind of innovations to actually fully exploit our blue economy sector? And of course, I am very happy to hear renewable energy, because in Mombasa, we have an issue with solid waste and things like this. And how can we convert this solid waste from waste to energy? What kind of innovations can we tap into and be able to get maybe off-grid solutions and things like that? So I feel like these three key sectors are something that people can actually look into and see how we can come up with opportunities from this. Thank you.
Amazing. So we are joined by one more guest, and I'll ask him to introduce himself. But as he introduces himself and what he does, and he'll say, but I want you to think of, based on your experience, we've had the opportunities, we've had where those who are interested in putting resources are keen to look at. I want you to add a layer on what will it take for the other entrepreneurs to elevate to a point that they can connect to this opportunity. Karibu.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My name is Amani Katana, and I'm the founder and executive director of a youth-led organization known as YEPI, Youth Empowerment Program Initiative, where we equip young people with the resources that they need in order to succeed in business and life. And I'm sorry for coming late. I was in another session that was running over. And it's part of last year's conversation with the SwahiliPot team and GOIN. I remember I told them, guys, I'm at your service. Make use of me. And this Pwani Innovation Week, they really did that. So thank you so much, SwahiliPot team. So some of the areas that, or one of the layers that I could add for these fellow young entrepreneurs to be able to access these opportunities or to be investor ready is there's some tools that are very key to us as entrepreneurs. And these tools are what will determine whether we will attract this funding from a financial institution or an investor or any other institution that provide funds. And one tool is a solid business plan. If you have a solid and actionable business plan, this is a tool that can help you attract investors. You might secure that appointment with them, but if they want to put money into your business, they will definitely request for a business plan. So I would encourage for the entrepreneurs who are still finding their way to make sure they update their business plan, because this is one of the tools that could help them attract funding. Another tool is an updated pitch deck. This is also key because investors would want to see what is your market traction, what have you been able to accomplish, what have you invested, you yourself as an entrepreneur, because it's very hard for people to invest from an early stage. They want to see what is your commitment, you as an entrepreneur. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily need to be finance. It could be the time you've invested in running this business. You can convert that into capital. It could be the research you've conducted. It could be the skills that you're bringing. So all these accumulated could help you attract these funding opportunities. And lastly, of course, it's a solid business model. No one wants to invest in a business that is going to die in 1 or 2 years from now. So they should also strive to come up with a solid business model that solves real problems within their communities, and they are also having the possibility for sustainability and scalability. Yeah, so that will be my contribution. Over to you.
Thanks, Amani. Key takeaway, you must have an idea that's solving an existing problem. Yeah? So in short, not coming up with a solution, then looking for a problem to solve. It's the other way around. Finding a problem, and then thinking of a solution, having a sound business model. That's very important. I want to come back to Rob, and we've talked a lot about investments in Kenya, in Mombasa. On one side, we hear investors saying we can't find enough businesses to invest in. And I'm sure if I ask the team here, do we have businesses that can be invested in? Kama ngapi hivi? Kaa zote. Everyone believes that there's a solid business that needs investment, right? What do you see as a challenge or as a disconnect between where investors sit and where the businesses sit? What seems not to be working? In simple terms.
Thank you. The first thing is, if you think about a lot of entrepreneurs across Africa, 3 out of 10 attempt to access, financing from an institution, be it like either, the most accessible ones are banks, right? So that means the 7 people who are left to figure it out or try and figure out what else would work. And if you think about the 7 out of the 10 that are struggling to figure out, since they've been locked out of the formal accessible financial funding vehicles, the first thing that comes to mind as a big challenge is, the structures that are currently existing, whether it's you're seeking, we talked about accessing a bank loan. There's also like venture capital, people who are willing to get in your company in exchange of just investing money so that you can be able to as a company. So number one is the structures. So if you look even like, for instance, when we're talking about banking, collateral is something a lot of young people might not be able to have access to, like at least at this age, right? The second one, which I think is a very big one, is biases, right? Yesterday, during one of the breakout sessions, there was a young entrepreneur. I think she has a cooking gas solution, but she's 21 years old. She was talking about the biggest challenge being credibility, not because of a solid business, but because she has to fight against the norms, the narratives around the type of entrepreneur who can be able to, run an organization that is that big or solving such a big problem. So I think biases is tied to the one I'm about to talk about, which is also investor readiness, right? So if you think about your company, and I liked that you asked the audience about how many organizations here are ready to receive funding, and the answer was many, right? But if you go through it and actually look at the organizations that are ready to get the money, and there was a lady who talked about sometimes the challenge is also, yes, you want to raise the money, but also how are you going to utilize that money? So really looking at how solid is your business, whatever you're already starting, how have you placed yourself in a way that people understand that one, you are solving an actual problem that exists. Number two, you have an actual serviceable, addressable market, like customers who are willing to spend money, to access either your product or your service. And then number three, how big is the opportunity and why now? And why you? What's your unique selling advantage? So there's a disconnect in how organizations are able to tell their stories as far as, so you can tell your story, but then there's also the reality on the ground. Like, are you just telling a story or is this what you're actually doing? So those three things really come to mind. And if I think about the third one, about like investor readiness, and you think about the young people in the audience here, I always believe that you can't be what you can't see. Of course, a lot of things are changing now. We're starting to see young entrepreneurs come up, tell their stories of how they came up and how they built their organizations. But I feel like there's less of lateral networking amongst entrepreneurs. So you're thinking always, I'll go and talk to an investor. I'll go and talk to this big deal person who will connect me with a deal. But actually, you realize that the small tweaks that will make the big changes are happening amongst the conversations you're having amongst yourselves as entrepreneurs. So I think once all these dots are able to connect, and if you're here at SwahiliPot, I think that's already like a great start, because you have access to the tools and the resources that can help you to build your organization, and then also figure out, do I even need investor money at this point, right? Is there a way I can either bootstrap, like just use the money either you have in your pocket or that you've been able to raise from your community to figure out how to solve it up until a point where you're like, okay, for us to get to the next level, okay, we'll need an injection of money so that we can be able to achieve a particular goal. So just to summarize it, I think the structures are challenging in the sense of what is required of young people. Number two is looking at the biases, So investors would mostly invest in people they know or like people they've been introduced to. So a lot of young people don't have access to those tables, to those rooms. So how do we make sure that we are democratizing that? And then three, looking at investor readiness and the whole concept of you can't be what you can't see. How do we facilitate entrepreneurs, particularly in a very specific place, to be able to get together and really understand and learn from each other and see what they can learn and how that can place them uniquely in a way that they can be able to attract funding that can actually be helpful and beneficial for the organization to get to the next level.
Amazing. I want to come to Anthony, and you've heard, we talked about the opportunities, the challenge, people saying they need finance. And I know the foundation, as you said, has put very specific measures to make sure that as we look in Africa, as we look in our community, it is led by our own people. And the vision and the goal is that we are able to understand our issues better, right? So from the foundation, what are some of the innovations or ideas you have around addressing some of these challenges?
And thanks, Kishopi, very good question. I think for us, it starts from the why we were founded. And I think one of the key things we've been trying to do is on enabling a skills development ecosystem. Cognizant that a lot of the young people, maybe went through school even up till tertiary institutions, as you mentioned. Only 13% of the people who enrolled in primary school end up in tertiary. In tertiary here, we're talking about both university and TVET. And a lot of them still can't find jobs. 800,000 of them graduate but still can't find jobs. So how can we create an enabling environment where private sector, the employers, the businesses, start conversing with our educational system so that we are training fit for purpose young individuals. And one of the key focuses we've been having is with our TVET institutions. Very many young people disregard TVET as a pathway of a career, but we know TVET is very, very important and essential in terms of enabling vocational skills training. So what we've been doing the last couple of years is how can we improve the TVET ecosystem so that one, it has the right kind of courses that it's training young people, it has the right kind of machines, infrastructure, training capabilities, but also that it's enabling young people to be ready for the job market, right? So that's one thing clear for us. But cognizant also that 87% of the young people drop out of school at one stage and don't transition to tertiary. However, they still need to put food on their table and they need a job. So one of the things we are having late nights is how can we enable the out-of-school youth, as you mentioned, to access work opportunities. We might need to cross a bridge there and enabling them to access relevant work readiness skills, coupled with life skills, as my brother mentioned, that enable them to be well prepared so that first they can start the job and then they can go. Leave alone those ones. Now, there are those who now say, yes, I went to school, or I might have dropped out of school for one reason or another, but I am into business, as a lot of you here. Cognizant that we need to create a leveling playing field where, one, you can have an idea, incubate that idea. So can we have incubations and business development services? But then also, how can I tap into capital that can enable my business to grow? But it's not just about accessing capital. How can I enable this business to grow year on year, sales and sales? So business development services is also important for us. And how can we create that? But also, how can we enable clusters of entrepreneurs into clusters within their ecosystem so that they can learn, grow, exchange ideas, but also tap into market? Because, as my sister said, tapping into market is one critical thing for a lot of businesses. So how can we support our businesses to tap into markets? And we have various programs that we are trying to curate to try and see the access to markets, and not just from a local perspective, Kenya, but also from a global perspective. So those are some of the things that we are grappling at night with to try and see how we can continue to support our young people within not only the coastal communities, but also right across of Kenya.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And I want to all of you start thinking about your key takeouts from this discussion. But I want to come to Sahale, like, how do we translate these efforts to job? Based on your experience in Mombasa, have you seen things that have translated to jobs? Do you have examples? And if not, what are some of the ideas you see that will significantly translate to jobs?
So some of the innovators that are coming from Mombasa, like you mentioned, are actually very youthful. And there's something that you said really summed it all up. You have to first realize what the problem is, and then now you come up with a solution for it. So basically, we are looking into innovations from problems that we have in Mombasa. So a good example is what he mentioned. Africa Food Trail, I think that is what you were referring to. This is a lady that I know. We were actually in campus together. And then the next thing, because of maybe jobs, employment, and she sat down and actually thought, why don't I curate something like an experience or cultural experience with culinary and everything, so that whoever comes in, tourists or whatever, can actually experience what Mombasa is about. And it's created jobs from that. Because now other people are saying, oh, this is something we can actually post it on Airbnb. This is something we can actually do. So it is an innovative solution. It's digital, that we can experience Mombasa in a different way. So we are looking in moving from traditional ways to innovative ways of doing things. That's one. A second one, I have a very good friend of mine who's sitting in the crowd. She's come up with something called Sea Earth Organics. Hanan, if you can just... Yeah. So she actually started something in Kwale, started farming, and then realized there's no organic fertilizer around. Most of the fertilizer is actually being imported from China, and it's not exactly organic. And she went and did research and started something like this. And she's from banking sector, mind you. Now she has people under her employment, and she's doing organic fertilizer from seaweed. So if you look into this kind of things, you can actually understand, if we look at the problems and challenges, the local problems and challenges we have in Mombasa, we can actually look for innovative solutions to do it, despite what your background is, despite where you come from, despite your age, or whatever it is. And it can actually translate into employment, and it can actually be very inspiring to other people around to jump into the bandwagon and see how we can be able to tap into innovative solutions to local problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we've had like 2 examples, value chains, organic fertilizers, congratulations, and how this can create a ripple effect and translate to jobs. So I'll give each one of you like 1 minute. What's your call to action? What's your takeout? What's your call to action based on this conversation, based on what you do? For each one of you, I'll start with you.
Great. My call to action, and part in short as well, right, is yes, we are talking about how you can be able to attract funding, but we also need to change the mindset. Funding itself cannot solve all the problems that you have in your business. We've seen big businesses raising millions of dollars, and they eventually failed. So we have to change this mindset, and sometimes funding can be contagious. I've seen entrepreneurs moving from one funding to another and another and another, and they forget about the core aspect of their business, of maximizing sales, maximizing profit, and you won't need the funding from the investor. So I think we need to change that mindset, and I would like to end with that as my call to action, and with a very interesting quote from one of our greatest entrepreneurs of our time, the founder of Alibaba. He said, "Money follow people, and people follow their dreams." So if you put your focus in your dreams, money will definitely follow you. But if you put your focus in chasing this money, it will run away from you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's very profound. For me, it's more of a challenge to the funders in the room, and if you have friends who are funders or who work for funding organizations. Right now, if you think about the youth skilling and livelihoods ecosystem, a lot of people are focusing on building skills, and it's useful, yes. But I do believe that we need to figure out better ways to collaborate, particularly in terms of 2 things. The knowledge base, based on what we have been working on for years on end around skilling, what do we know to be true right now? And what needs to change for us to connect the young people that have been skilled to now to better opportunities that will earn them livelihood. So, and I think the most low-hanging fruit opportunities for collaboration is just sharing knowledge, what we know, what we are learning, and then figuring out how do we now move to the next frontier in terms of figuring out how do we place all these people that we've done such a great job of scaling. Thank you.
I think my biggest parting shot is 2 things. Number 1, to the young people in the room. Regardless of where you are in life, whether you finish school, drop out of school, dream and dream big. But it's one thing to dream, it's another thing to live the dream. Step out. You have this idea, step out, come to collaboration spaces like SwahiliPot, understand, learn. I love this I love this story from one young person who came to SwahiliPot. I wouldn't say her name because maybe some of you know her. I'll call her XX. XS had dropped out of university because of school fees for one reason or another. But she came here for one social Friday. And then as she was here, a couple of her friends were working. There used to be a BPO center that was up there at the offices. And she saw her friends working at the BPO center and she enrolled for the program. She was not a techie. She was in procurement. Not a techie, was in procurement. Attended training for 2 weeks and then started working. And for a year, she was a data entry clerk, earning some decent money over a year. But then her desire, you remember in the morning we've been told, kujituma, akajituma. After a year, she learned and she started training to be a software engineer. And today she's earning and working for the global companies and earning big money. I think for me, her story epitomizes the opportunities that are there, particularly even for our young women in the room, Jituma, and even entrepreneurs here. Let's give ourselves. It might be frustrating, it might take time, but wanasema itajipa. See, that's what they say, itajipa. Keep at it. But even for our funders in the room, I think there is an opportunity for us to start considering the young people in the room as potential for people, as customers, clientele who we can work with. I think the mindset has always been, there's still time for the young people. I think the young people in the room have shown us that regardless of the hurdles, regardless of the barriers, that they have opportunities, they have the ideas, they can steer and they can take this nation forward with the ideas that they have. So let's allow the young people to come into those spaces. Let's allow them to bid. Let's allow them to take a part in our investments that we have. And let's allow them to grow and to prosper, but also to learn and fail. Because in the failing and in the learning is when the ideas to grow. So wish you guys all well, and hopefully we can continue to see the entrepreneurial abilities that you have continue to thrive and to prosper. Thank you.
It's very nice to hear from all the panelists. I like how balanced this panel actually was. One of the key things that I've realized and everybody is aware of is the issue of bureaucracy when it comes to maybe seeking of permits and things like this in public sector. So as MIC, we're looking forward to work closely with public, private, NGOs, community-based organizations, so that we can look for ways to streamline the business processes and actually create a very good business environment for Mombasa. I'm happy to say we are going to have the launch of the Economic Development and Investment Council, EDIC, tomorrow. So I look forward to have everybody there. And this is something that is very exciting because in the council, it will include the different sectors of the economy. It will include the NGOs, the public sector, private sector, and we are going to discuss all these issues that we have here, including sources of funding. How can we facilitate? How can we improve? How can we do training? What are the sectors we should look at, and things like this. So I believe this council is a good step forward, and that not only is this just a panel, but it's something that we are going to do something about. And in this Innovation Week, there will be something that is substantial coming out of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So great takeaway from Katana is chase your dreams. Look for problems that you have solutions. Rob has talked about looking at how we invest and calling all investors in the room to think differently about investment. Anthony amesema ni kujituma. Ukipatana na opportunity unafanya nini? Unaanguka nayo proper, si ndio? And exciting news from Sahale about the Economic Development and Investment Committee with a vision of looking at unique challenges in Mombasa and how to organize our community to align in a way that it supports entrepreneurs because they contribute greatly to our jobs and placement. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I say thank you so much and have an amazing afternoon. Asanteni.
I know we have questions. Tafadhali to my panel. This is a message to my panel. The people who are raising up their hands, please, inua mkono. Tafadhali, please meet them. We have another session that is supposed to start at exactly 1:15. So, tafadhali, make your way in front, talk to them on the sidelines. Is that okay? Okay? So let's take a group photo, tafadhali. So at exactly 1:15, we should be back in the amphitheater. There will be no sessions in the main auditorium. So wote tutakuwa hapa. Kwa hivyo, this place will be packed. You better mark your space very early. We'll be starting the case management program from then. So we'll be talking about empowering change, success stories from the case management program. We'll also be live on TV, so make your way in the amphitheater on time to get your sitting space. We will be live on KTN. Yes, so make your way in the amphitheater on time to get a sitting space.
Yes,